spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided at DC Sports Podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. This episode, we're going to recap the Jahan Dotson trade, and we've got our final preseason game of the preseason coming up Sunday, 8 p.m. on NBC, nationally televised, so you will be able to see it wherever you are, live. And will Jaden Daniels play? Still a question. But we're going to get into that. Maybe talk a bit about the 53. That cut day is coming on Tuesday. And then we've got not one, but two common mailbags. So the first one from the last episode about Jahan Dotson. And the second one is going to be about the one after the Dolphins preseason game. So before we begin this episode, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and K-Dot.
I thought I'd write a poem. Whispered in the wind. Let the message fly. From 1,000 to 1 million, we aim for the sky. Echo in the streets. Let every voice lift. Join the movement now and go share this shit.
Oh, beautiful. Share
this shit!
Now, did you write that or did ChatGPT write that?
Shut up.
So why don't we go ahead and begin with the first comment mailbag, which is about
Okay. I'll save it.
Okay.
Comment mailbag time, motherfucker.
We're beginning with the first comment mailbag of two. You will be hearing Nikki, I promise. Maybe right now. I honestly think you may press the button at any moment. But we wanted some fan reaction on the Jahan Dotson trade. You guys delivered with your comments. So we're going to go ahead and begin with Dennis 2782.
Denny's.
Just didn't look right. That pass to Terry in the flat and needed one block for a touchdown. Dotson blew it. That was when I thought it was time to move on. K-Dot, your reaction to that. If you remember the play, it was like a quick out to the left. Dotson's blocking. The defender is able to shed the block and tackle Terry immediately.
I will admit it's a failure on my part, being kind of lackadaisical in preseason watch at times. I did not catch that on first glance. I did see the replay of it on Twitter quite a few times over the last few days. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to be a man that speaks about body language and moments, negatives across the board, Jahan. Yeah, it wasn't a good look. And yeah, it's not. Look, I there's going to be a lot of I'm kind of curious to what the percentage of Jahan bashing compared to Jahan, oh man, it sucks it didn't work out. Still love for him. I think I had a lot of love for dude, and I was really hoping that it was going to work out. So I was trying to give him the benefit of doubt a lot. But I think the harsh reality is Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are holding me honest. They're like, fuck you and whatever it is you think, bitch. We need ballers, and he ain't balling. So
yeah, no, that's fair. I agree that it was a play where I was like, wait a minute. On second glance, I saw it the first time. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah, just didn't block very well. And then you sort of see that it's actually sort of a continuous thing, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's going to be a touch different from what we want over here. Go over to Vindo. Oh, gee, shout out Vindo. We need taller wide receivers that can block. I'm not surprised by the trade. Just wish it was out of division. Ayuk trade makes sense because he fits that profile. Additionally, I believe starting out the first couple of games, we will be running more than passing with our personnel on shorts, passes, and screens. The playbook opens up if we are in contention for the playoffs, in my eyes. What do you make of that, kid? Maybe starting more with running the ball rather than passing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I'm probably the most excited about is the idea that we'll have an offense that has a thing called balance compared to last year, right? And that's something that we've talked about a lot in the preseason is how hard Brian Robinson's been running. Eckler's looked good in his short spots here and there, but to have that tandem really clicking on all cylinders would be great. We've also ad nauseum talked about how much we love the fact that Anthony Lynn is here within the house. the run game needs to be a vital portion of the way that we do things. Number one, to take pressure off of Jaden, but number two, it's better to have a more balanced fucking offense, just from a time and possession perspective, right? Keep that defense as fresh as fucking possible. If you can run the ball effectively, that'd be the absolute best thing. And I think that akin to running the ball, like you said, the short passing game is also something that's going to be crucial. Terry McLaurin is somebody that we've talked about the last 2 years, and we'd like to see line up in a lot of other places. I know that Coach Lombard has talked about it in the past as far as him lining up XZ, whatever. Like, that's the thing. And we haven't seen a lot of that in preseason, but people have talked about it as far as seeing him in training camp or anything. It's like, yeah, they're lining him up all over the place. Like, that's what we want to see. We want to see the short game. I think the key to the guys on the team is going to be yak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. That to me is, it'll be fundamental to the offense. It makes me excited.
Right. And so just wanted to also note that I know that there's the statistic going around that Terry lined up 28 times on the left out of 29 snaps this preseason.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that is indicative of what is going to happen, because you've had multiple reporters, Chick Hernandez being one of them, I believe Ben Standing being the other, that come to mind immediately, that have said, hey, they're not showing anything of what they're going to do. When we looked at Jaden's first game, it was a bunch of quick stuff just to be able to make sure he doesn't get hit. Then he checks into the deep ball. Then we go no huddle, a bit more hurry up tempo. It's not necessarily what we're going to do either. I think we will, but it's not necessary that we will. So we'll see what ends up happening over there. They just wanted to get him loose and see the ball placement. We got to see that, which was great. So Terry could line up all over the place. We'll find out come week 1. Go over to Coach Lombard with a couple comments here. At 3. Shout out Coach New G Lombard. Go Birds. AP drafts character and trusts his coaches to create traits. Howie drafts traits and trusts his culture to create character. Okay, so that's 1. We'll read through all 3. Then, I talked more shit about Jahan than almost anyone, and now that he's an Eagle, I hope that I'm wrong about him. If I'm not wrong, I hope he can be fixed. He's a family man and he's close to home. Terry is a great leader. AJ is more confrontational than Terry is, and I think Han needs confrontation. Okay, so that's 2. And here's the 3rd one. This is how the wide receiver rankings are in Washington, according to Coach Lombard. Terry, Dyami Brown, OZ, McCaffrey, who's now playing a lot of slot, K-Dot, with the 1s. Jamison Crowder, so that's your 5. To me, Terry is a top 15X and a top 5Z. Yeah. Ayuk or Higgins at the X makes too much sense. CD is basically slot only and therefore offers less value. Got a thumbs up on that one. So those are the 3 comments from Coach New G Lombard. Go ahead, K-Dot, floor is yours.
Coach, I appreciate not all the negative language in these. Hey, I can vibe with this. Although I will say that we need to treat Go Birds like it's a racial slur. Never again.
Agree. We have to bleep that out.
Astute point as far as Howie compared to AP, but I also think the situations are vastly different, right? So like the culture has been set in Philadelphia for quite some time with all the vets and stuff that they've had in that locker room. I'm actually curious to see what it looks like now without a Jason Kelce there in the locker room, without some of the dudes that they've had for quite some time in there. I think there'll be a bit of a shift, but once again, culture's fairly strong. You guys have had recipe for success. Easier to do with Washington. You're building from nothing, right? They are trying to build a culture all the way through. So it's like, yeah, we need guys in the building to sort of represent that aspect of it. And then maybe we can have something going forward, but you got to start somewhere. But I don't disagree with that at all. As far as the Jahan takes overall, yeah, I will admit that you have probably, while I do think you skewed entirely too negative, this is where we're at. I think that Jahan is a guy that could be coached up. And maybe this is the right situation for him to be, right? There's not as much pressure as it was here in Washington for everybody wondering, are you going to be that number 2? He's clearly not better than A.J. Brown. He's clearly not better than Devontae Smith, and nobody's going to treat him as such. But whether or not he can be an absolute contributor, and maybe that more confrontational attitude, maybe something will click for him being more close to home. I don't know. I'm rooting for him, and I don't think he'll be a failure. And that hurts me to say, because I don't want him to have necessarily a lot of success for you fucking assholes up there.
Right. No, I think that's well said there, Kate. I just wanted to jump in and say, I think this is going to end up being a win-win for both sides, where I think Jahan, as a wide receiver 3, no matter what numbers he puts up, you can make the case that it's going to be a success. And then for us, we get the opportunity to get not 1, not 2, but potentially 3 new players that become molded into that play like a commander mindset. So it helps with the identity and the culture of the team moving forward long term. Please continue.
But I actually say, to that point, the biggest win for me in this is if Jahan was not bought into what it is that we were doing here, it gives other guys an opportunity that are here on the team as we're getting to this 53-man
more
roster,
reps,
have reps, and to get an opportunity to be here to do that. So that to me is the grand thing, because I do think there's some talent in the building. Clearly not as good a talent as they have in the wide receiver room in like Philadelphia, but I think there's some guys that could be exciting here. I'm really excited about at least Luke McCaffrey. And then the wide receiver rankings, I see nothing wrong with that, at least for what I've seen so far in preseason.
Yeah, totally fine. And so shout out Coach New G Lombards for those comments. Then we go to Stargate 294 with 2 thumbs up on this comment here. Shout out. We should have drafted Chris Olave ourselves instead of trading to get the pick for Dotson. So again, as a reminder to those who, I think everyone knows the trade details at this point, at the time, what it ended up netting for the 11th pick, which ended up being Chris Olave to the New Orleans Saints. We got Jahan Dotson, Sam Howell, who's now with the Seahawks, Dotson now with the Eagles, Brian Robinson, still here, RB1, Cliff said as much, and Cole Turner, who is, a maybe on the 53 right now. So I think, people looking back go, man, the way this has turned out, we should have just stuck there and taken Chris Olave. At the time, K-Dot, I think you and I were both pretty high on Kyle Hamilton, who was also available at pick 11. What's your take on that comment?
My take on that comment is I'm looking at the other first-round draft picks of the Ron Rivera era, and I'm wondering if it's more about they picked the wrong player compared to anyone that came here that got picked at that particular spot was going to fucking fail anyway. Me and you were on the record as far as how much we love Kyle Hamilton, like you said, and we both admit Kyle Hamilton's seasons compared to what he had in Baltimore compared to here would be night and fucking day.
Correct.
I pretty much say the kind of exact same thing about Chris Olave. I think that maybe he is more talented than Jahan Dotson. I think that would probably be it. Like, if we're just looking at productivity, you'd say probably yes. But I'd also look and say that, like, as much as I give Ron Rivera credit for certain aspects of what it is that his regime did, I will say from a coaching up player standpoint here, wasn't great. And I think you can go back to his days at Carolina even and see that, like, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, he lucked into two generational talents of their position that kind of led their teams or led their respective areas, even with talent deficits. We didn't have necessarily anybody drafted that's that special that was able to kind of go through all that shit. And look, the only two people left as far as the first round draft pick are Forbes and Davis. Both guys who, in my opinion, are on the fucking bubble.
Who would have thought, right? Like, as it turns out. But both have responded so far to Joe Witt being the defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn being the head coach, this new culture, play like a commander. You're hearing reports from multiple reporters that are saying, hey, they have really bought into this and are going through their necessary adjustments to be able to be a part of it.
And it seems like that's the difference, right? But like, if somebody were to tell me 3 weeks ago that Forbes was getting traded, would that have been a shock?
No, I don't think so either. I'll also say this. If we stuck at pick 11, wouldn't be surprised if we just took Jahan Dotson. So anyway, we will go ahead and move over to Earl Bruce with a couple comments. Share this shit. Amit and K-Dot, reach out and do more collabs. I appreciate Earl Bruce being the true CEO of District Divide. He's right. I do need to reach out to more people so that we can do more collabs. Earl, appreciate it. Pushed us to do a previous collab with Nathan, of course, who we had collabed with before. We got to collab with some more folks, K-Dot. I will reach out to people. Earl, I appreciate it. And then AP is cooking. According to the over-the-cap trade calculator, Washington won the trade. We'll see. They now have 9 picks next year and over $36 million in cap space. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a rebuild. Jahan isn't physical enough, but he can thrive in Philly as the 4th or 5th receiving option. When he failed to block for Terry in the Jets game and fell down when bumped on a pass, his fate was sealed. Hopefully a change will benefit Jahan. Those are the 2 comments from Earl Bruce. Shout out. K-Dot, your reaction?
Yeah, I think that to anyone seeing what it is that's happened over the course of this offseason, it's clearly a fucking rebuild, right? But we're just not calling it that. We refuse to call it that, because when you call it that, it comes with a certain set of expectations or a certain mindset that this team and this organization doesn't want the players or anyone to really have when talking about them. So I'm actively doing my best not to give them to not call the rebuild as to, while I have very low expectations as far as what this season means to me, as far as the evaluating and everything, right?
Yeah.
I think what they're saying is that they want to make sure that what has been a criticism of us the last few seasons, when we're eliminated from the playoffs and when shit starts going bad and you see the body language, everybody fucking turn. They don't want that from anyone. So they have to believe it to their core. This is not a rebuild. We're trying to win some fucking games. So like semantics.
Yeah.
I mean, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck. It's a fucking duck.
The thing I love the most about this recalibration is the term they've used, this rebuild. You can choose whatever term you want to, guys. Retooling. I like that it is centered around the identity and making sure that we have the right people in the building, not necessarily the most. Jahan Dotson to me is a very talented wide receiver, but does it mean that he's a fit for what we want long term? No. Contractually, does it make sense to keep him when you know you have this 5th-year option coming up? Probably not. Based on what you've seen so far, he'd have to have an unreal season. They didn't see it with the body language in the moments, to K-Dot's points and using his terms there. So I think they did what a smart GM or smartly run organization would do, which is move on sooner rather than later while there's still some value. So I'm excited about creating the proper identity around here, and it ruffling some feathers with the fan base. I don't mind at all. I think it was objectively the right move. We go back to Coach New G Lombard with one more comment here. Is the Jahan trade a good or bad trade for Washington? It depends. If I was right about Han and his effort and that he has no heart, it's a great trade for Washington. If I'm wrong about Han and it is a motivational thing, that trade is potentially disastrous for Washington. I think disastrous is a pretty far stretch. K-Dot, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's too hard to say right now. Like, to me, if I'm looking at like from a overall standpoint and looking at Washington as a whole, Jahan getting traded for what it is we got in return is a colossal failure. He's a 1st-round pick. That's a fail. Like, there's no getting around it. Like, that's a fucking failure. If he plays up to his 1st-round status in Philadelphia and he didn't do it with us, that's another fucking failure. But I understand, as you said so eloquently, just last question, it's they're putting a premium on having certain guys here that espouse a certain level of play, a certain style of play that matters to what it is long-term for the identity of the team. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you will forego talent if it's not a good fit. As a matter of fact, we were talking about whether or not I think this is actually a good time to read it, was Cliff Kingsbury said about the wide receiver group. One of the most important traits starting wide receiver group needs to have: DQ style of play. They want to be physical and play hard without the ball. I think this is what we preach, is like everybody's going to run routes and make catches at this level. But how do you play without the ball? If you get some of the top teams in the league, or it's the Chiefs or the 49ers, when they transition a block when their teammates have the ball, that's kind of the secret sauce that takes you to the next level. And we've been preaching that, and those guys have done a good job responding. That is what they're looking for. They're looking for guys that have this play like a commander's going to fucking mean something. That's the point of it. And they haven't lied to us, right? Like, if we did a better job even reading the body language in that last preseason game, if I did a better job reading the body language in that game, then I would have known outright Jahan doesn't look like that dude. Maybe that's where, Coach, I give you credit for showing that you were looking at certain body language as far as Jahan and giving up on certain things and this, that, and the other. And if that's the case, yeah, that's not at all what it is they've talked about doing. It's been from the very beginning that Adam Peters walked in the door. Dan Quinn and everybody that they've hired, everybody that they've signed, everybody that they've drafted fits a mold. A rough and tumble, I'm going to play my ass off.
The thing that I really enjoyed about Cliff Kingsbury's quote: what are you doing without the ball?
Right.
So if you look at what we're trying to build here, we talk about play like a commander, you talk about body language and moments, and we talk about establishing an identity and running the ball more, things of that nature. Let's say Jahan Dotson got 10 targets a game, but we have 55 plays on offense.
Mhm.
What about the other 45 plays? What are you doing?
Right.
Are you running the route hard? Are you blocking really well? That's why I really like that quote, because it's a fresh reminder to people that wide receiver, or really any position, is not all about just one thing. You're on the field for 55 plays. What are you doing on all 55? Not the 10 you're targeted, right? And 10 is a big number for Jahan, by the way. 10 targets, right? So I really enjoyed that quote from Cliff Kingsbury. It reminds me, I play a lot of soccer. What are you doing without the ball? Are you making that selfless run to open up a teammate to be able to score? Are you checking to it? Like, that stuff matters. You spend more time off the ball than you do on in just about every sport. What are you doing? So I'm glad they're keying in on that. We got a few more comments to roll
We'll
through.
say
Go
one
ahead.
last thing. The game where Jahan played all the snaps, it was the first preseason game where he played like a fuck ton of the snaps on offense. They kept him out there while everybody else was kind of bringing back in. That to me is the coaching staff saying, we are going to basically give you ample opportunity to prove to us that even if you don't have the ball coming your way, you're going to play your fucking ass off. And I think we all said, based on that game alone, nothing was good as far as the body language in the moment, really, from Jahan and all those snaps. So, like, I think they gave him as much opportunity as they possibly could, and they just didn't see it. Sometimes you got wide receivers, because, like, it's a lonely fucking position if you're not getting the ball, right?
Mhm.
Like, it does take a certain aspect of mental fortitude to know you're running out there doing fucking wind sprints the entire time, and the ball might not be coming your fucking way. Are you still checked in? Are you still fucking involved in the fucking game?
Can I jump in and just say the team he's going to has an issue there too. When Devontae Smith's the one going off, AJ Brown is actually throwing fits on the sideline. Right. So like, it's cool because he's a wide receiver one. There's an ego, there's a talent there. I get it. But that's also going on, right? Like
100%. And you got some, and the thing is, some of these dudes, if you do target them a few times, at least Tom Brady talked about this, he was doing an interview with somebody, I forget. And he was like, they asked him, like, is it different when you have like a Randy Moss on your team? And he said, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like, with Randy, I need to make sure in the first quarter, really, really early, I'm targeting him a few times to let him know. And then if we delve away from him for too long, I'm reminding Josh McDaniels, like, we got to get him back involved. Otherwise,
he's disinterested. It's quarterback is a lot of emotional management, by the way. So Brady was lending itself to that with that comment because, you need all your players to stay engaged. That's part of that's a skill, by the way, at the quarterback position, making sure that everybody gets theirs. We go over to Clarence Thomas. Shout out. That math wasn't mathing for a wide receiver too named Jahan. Again, Dyami Brown seemed to be the one with the body language and the moments as we could do. Body language moments really growing on me here, Kate. I really like it as the thing that happens on District Divided. Same thing with OZ and same thing with Luke McCaffrey. You saw the significant difference between game 2 and game 1 already. Let's see what happens in game 3. Like, exciting times, and it wasn't working here with Jahan. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. Could be great in Philadelphia. It just wasn't working here. Go ahead, Kate.
No, it truly is. One of these things is unlike the other. Like, you look offensively, you see all these dudes were trying their asses off, right? Like, if they were playing hard. In preseason, they're playing very fucking hard. Senate, anytime Senate fucking got the ball, it's like, dude, he's treating it like it's the goddamn fourth quarter and the Super Bowl's on the
He's already on the Angry Runs preview for the season with
where we at? John Bates even has his moment. Like, they've all had their moments. Jahan was the only one that hadn't. And like, I don't know if he had more catches, does that change his body language or whatever? I don't know. They try to give him ample opportunity to do something to change it. It just didn't change. And once again, I don't know what wide receiver 2 actually means or looks like of any significance actually when it comes to us, but we'll see. I still have no real concept of what it is we're going to look like offensively. That's what I'm so excited about.
We're going to find out. We go over to Patriot Clips. Shout out. I think Jahan will be on his 3rd team by this time next year. This one's interesting because I think that there is a point. So when we look at the contract again, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to make a decision on what they do with that 5th year. That is now their responsibility. They will most likely decline it. It doesn't make sense to pick it up, especially when you're already paying Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. You paid Jalen Hurts. Right. So they would be the first team to pay 3 wide receivers. I don't think that's going to happen. So all of a sudden, do they go, okay, this is sort of a 1 to 2 year rental with Jahan. And if he does well, we trade him, knowing Howie and how aggressive he is. Like, do you trade him? And if it doesn't go well, knowing Howie and how aggressive he is, he's probably gone. So I actually think this is an excellent comment as I was thinking about it and going, really, no matter how he does, there's a really good chance this was a 1 year rental. So we'll see what happens. Kid, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think that's the whole point, was that like the value in Dotson is you have some time before you have to make that decision, right? Is you can kind of gauge whether or not, and if it doesn't work out, you can scrap him before you say, no, I'm not doing this for you. So yeah, I think that's the thing. With Washington, it's just like, look, if we don't think he's going to shine here, if we don't think he's going to get the targets he needs, if we don't think X, Y, and Z, or if we got other guys behind him that we want to see more of, it doesn't make sense wasting time on this.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear. So I keep talking about the 5th year option. His 5th year is not next year. The option needs to be picked up or, not exercised next year. His 4th year, he's still on his rookie deal, which is still a very, very manageable number. So it's 1 to 2 years that you have of Jahan cheap before that 5th year would potentially kick in should you choose to exercise it. So that's the point. Just want to be clear that I'm aware that this coming season is year 3. The following season's year 4, which is not the 5th year option, but they already have the decision entering year 4. Right. Want to be clear. We go over to Tony P. Tony Peters. Shout out, Tony. I was over Jahan, and so is the GM. Half of my prediction is complete. AP, you know what to do next. With that little purple devil emoji. Of course, in reference to Brandon Ayuk, who continues to sit in San Francisco. The saga that never ends. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go to Pittsburgh? Is he going to go to Washington? Is he going to do something new with his life? Fuck it. I have no idea at this point. Kid, what do you make of the comment there?
How's Brandon Ayuk's blocking?
It's really good because he was in the Shanahan doghouse for a while. They're actually, you know what, Tony, we're going to parlay your comment with a couple others, if that's okay. Because I remember reading a couple of these. Here we go. So Mr. Man 3523 shout out. If y'all were trading for Ayuk, then Dotson would have been a part of the trade. Okay. So that's one.
Okay.
And we got Tony's. Nathan Perry, shout out. Friend of the show, been on the show. Quick thoughts. Wouldn't a better trade for SFB to get Jahan in return? Don't see a big name coming. There's more to that comment. I just want to pause there for a moment. I don't think San Francisco was interested in Jahan Dotson.
Yep.
Right. So when we talk about blocking, when we talk about playing like a commander, where did Adam Peters come from?
Right.
They have their mold. When Ayuk was not blocking, check his snap counts that season.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the doghouse. Ayuk's bigger than him. And he was in the doghouse forever until he finally started blocking. Now he is who he is. Jahan Dotson was not going to be a San Francisco 49er. So I just want to be very clear there that a trade for Ayuk could still happen with somebody else that they like on our roster potentially.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't going to be Jahan. So this idea that we have traded Jahan to Philly does not mean Ayuk is dead, but it also doesn't mean we've traded away our only chip for him. I just want to say that, K-Doc.
No, I think that's the thing is like, I understand on paper. Does that make sense if we're playing Madden? Yes. Like, I get it. I fully understand. San Francisco want to recoup a wide receiver that they lost. But if you got to understand that, like, if there are conversations happening, Adam Peters and John Lynch are going to cut through the bullshit. Why are you getting rid of Jahan? Adam. Well, he's not playing like a commander. Well, why the fuck do you think he's going to play like a 49er? But I think with a Howie, he doesn't give a shit. As Coach Lombard said,
right,
we have the culture to potentially change that already. So, yeah, that to me is I don't think that those two things are necessarily connected in the sense of like whether or not we make the move for Ayuk. I think it's whether or not they think that they have enough talent that they'd like to see evaluated on the team already. To me, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm of the idea that with no longer having to worry about whether or not you're picking up the 5th option on Jahan, I do think that the timeline on potentially getting a world-beating wide receiver can be sped up, and I'm now in the camp where I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm of the camp I'm in that camp as well. I'm also in the camp of it is so late in the game. I highly doubt any of those teams are just letting go of their wide receiver at this point. Let's continue with Nathan's comment just because there was more. AP was taking calls on Jahan, and shout out Mr. Man and Tony for the comments there. It just immediately triggered the other ones that I remembered. So appreciate that, guys. AP was taking calls on Jahan. League valued him as a third-round pick. That's what we got from Philadelphia, of course, along with 2 sevens. Cliff says he likes his wide receivers that he has. I believe him. Think back to his Arizona time. Any wide receivers stand out aside from DeAndre Hopkins or Christian Kirk?
Not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But it would lend to the idea that he might be fine with what we have.
Or maybe it's one of those things that this entire coach staff is a coach staff that learns from their mistakes. I need more guys.
Yeah, could be. Commanders are second in waiver priority. Is this where they go after a wide receiver? Is there a player or position you would like them to address with a waiver? So I doubt any standout offensive lineman is going to be cut. So I wouldn't go there. Corner, there could be a conversation. I think there could be a conversation with the second waiver priority. I think it's going to go to kicker. I mean, I don't know what Cade York's going to do, but like, I think it's, I hope he makes his kicks. We'll talk about the preseason game in a moment coming up. But like,
cut Justin Tucker.
I mean, look, there's some decent kickers out there that are, backing up good kickers right now. So I think it's going to end up being used on kicker.
To spoil a little bit of the preseason preview, there's a kicker on New England currently in a battle that we're very familiar with named Joey Slye.
Imagine if after all that,
he's right back here.
And
I'm telling you right now,
he deserves to flick off the crowd and kick it 50 yards to the right. I'd be like, you know what? You earned that one. For the amount of shit that was talked about him last year.
I was saying there is a distinct possibility Joey Slye's back.
Well, okay, look out. He's on kicker watch for K-Dot. Finally, Terry Brown, OZ, Luke, Crowder, Bryant, Tremayne, and Kaz. Okay, so 7. Great show as always. 7 wide receivers for Nathan over there. That's the comment. Quick reaction there, K-Dot. We got a few more to get through, and then let's get to the preseason.
No, Nathan, appreciate the comment. I think the 7 wide receivers, we're going to talk about it in the 53-man roster thing in a few days because it's getting dicey. Yeah.
Guys, we're already beyond the half-hour mark, so we're going to do some quick hits here. So apologies. But I want to make sure everyone gets recognized for their comments. So going to Yamstart, shout out. I'm going to miss Jahan, but if they truly wanted to move on from him, better to get decent comps now, I suppose, which is exactly what happened. You get the third-round pick while there's still value. We'll see what ends up happening. If he's amazing for Philadelphia, of course it'll hurt. Let's not kid ourselves. Of course it'll hurt. But I still think Adam Peters did the right thing. The more I see it, the more I hear, I think he did the right thing, K-Dot. I really do. Go ahead.
No, yeah.
Yeah. We go over to Cody Wren. Shout out. They didn't want him pouting about coming off the bench behind Dyami Brown. Might as well get something for him. He won't start in Philly, so I have nothing against this trade. I think AP is cooking up a corresponding trade with the additional draft capital. I wouldn't rule that out. I think it is possible that you now have more flexibility with, it doesn't even have to be that third-round pick. I know people are talking about that third-round pick in relation to Brandon Ayuk. There could be another wide receiver that you're interested in that maybe costs you a 4th or a 5th. Not a 5th anymore. Our 5th is gone. But like a 4th or a 6th, let's say, that you like and you can now get. And you have the additional third-round pick and the 2 sevens. So I do think it's possible we make a move, K-Dot.
It also doesn't have to happen right now.
Correct. Could be closer to the trade deadline. Could see what they want out of Jaden Daniels, who, you know what? Reports continue to be good. Even the practice after. He was hitting everybody in practice.
I don't know if there's a comment that has, I'll wait until the end.
Okay. We go over to diehard Eagles fan since 1994. Shout out. Don't read into that, but here we go. I really do feel like Commanders fans are coping by lying to themselves a bit. It depends on what we're lying to ourselves about. Trading a first-round pick 2 years later hurts. I don't think we're lying about that. It sucks. We would have wanted it to work. He's had some pretty awesome moments over here.
We just called it a fail.
Exactly. We called it a fail. No two ways about it. It's not a success trading Jahan Dotson. All we're saying is that considering where the situation now is, and this is why confidence is so important with players, if he was still highly confident, he's on the team. Considering where the situation is, I think we got as much as we could out of it. That's all.
Coach Lombard, I'm gonna make you an exception to this rule. Here's the thing that I think that we see an issue with when it comes to especially Eagles fans commenting on some of our videos. This time of the year is an area of unknowns. They haven't started playing the real fucking football games yet. Now, the thing that you guys do in the city of brotherly love is when you don't know what's going to happen, you guys err on the side of fucking abject negativity. The sky's falling, everything's shit, fuck you, fuck everyone. That's what we do. That is not what you're going to get with us. You have, we as a pod love the coaching staff. We love the front office moves. And in a realm where we don't fucking know because they haven't played yet, we are going to be skewing a bit more positive than fucking negative. And if there's something that we can be negative about, we'll do it. We'll be honest about it if we fucking see something negative, or at least we try to be if we catch it, right? But beyond that, there's also, hey, maybe on some things, we just don't fucking know. So instead of trying to throw batteries at Santa Claus, you sons of bitches, just get a little more fucking joy in your lives.
That's very well said. We go over to Nelson Wolf, who wrote this in reference to the video, but maybe wrote this in reference to K-Dot's comment. Oh my goodness, is what was written. That is it. That is it with the eyes emoji. Shout out Nelson Wolf, who was one of our, we'll call him Vikings correspondents during the draft when they got Dallas Turner and JJ McCarthy. Shout out and rest in peace to JJ McCarthy's season upcoming, and hopefully he recovers. To be clear, I don't dislike JJ McCarthy. I just dislike the conversation of him coming here. Just want to be very clear on that.
I think if anybody were to repeat when you said that, my soul left my body. You're an ass.
Go over to Rich, where your helmet at. Shout out, Rich, where your helmet
Talk
at.
about
Shout
asses.
Sometimes I wonder if I should have been a Philly fan. He says people had Dotson, but loved, or people hated Dotson, but loved Dotson. Identical stats. Put some respect back on the doctor. K-Dot, I've got the stats. Why don't you go ahead?
All right. If I'm remembering, their stats are eerily similar.
Let me read this cleanly one more time. I'm sorry. People hated Dotson, but loved Dotson. Identical stats. Put some respect back on the doctor.
If I'm not, now I have not looked at this, but I'm guessing their stats are eerily similar. The difference being Dotson didn't play basically his rookie season. So he was 3 years in when we decided that we were going to make the move and get off of him. Now, the thing is, there's a reason we moved from him that is slightly different than the situation we have right here. They drafted Terry McLaurin, and they had also paid Paul Richardson a ton of fucking money in 2018. So when they had to make a choice between Dotson and Richardson, the money spoke and Terry was coming in. So bye-bye, Josh. That it's just what ended up happening. I don't think people I think were very highly disappointed in what happened with Josh Dotson, but I also think there was an overall anger with the team and the way it was running. Plus there was still the era of yacht bitch.
And he had that drop on Monday Night Football. You remember that against Kansas City?
Mm-hmm.
Where like, it was on the money. Had to catch that. I will say this though. When you do look at the stats, pretty similar.
They're similar, right?
Pretty similar. And so now that Jahan is gone, Dotson, I think it's fair to put him in a similar bucket. I do. In terms of what they did for the franchise, I think it's fair. I think there was a bit more hype because Jahan had a really nice rookie year. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I think we remember that. But then the step
Josh was hurt.
Yeah, and Josh was hurt. So I think it's closer than people think. Shout out Rich, where your helmet out for the comment there. Shout out Nelson Wolf for the comment before that. Big Papa Grizzly, McLaurin, Brown, McCaffrey, O's, Tremayne, and Crowder with Bryant as the optional seventh. Something tells me that will not be how this wide receiver room shakes out. I think AP will be busy next week. All right, we will stay tuned for trades on that one. Big Papa Grizzly, shout out as always, man. Love the comments. Go over to Jasanto. Shout out. Yeah. It's a short one on this one. We got a longer one on the last one.
Okay.
Jahan, but not forgotten. I love that. This move tells me three things. One, we are not used to a front office like this. They aren't going to sit around and wait to see how things pan out. They're going to be proactive and aggressively pursue roster moves to improve the team throughout the season and offseason. Two, they mean what they say. The standard is the standard. And this play style isn't for everyone. If you don't fit the culture, you're welcome to leave. 3, I'm expecting a lot more moves all the way to the trade deadline. Okay. And so that's the comment from Jasanto. K-Dot, your reaction to both Big Papa Grizzly, who mentioned the 7 wide receivers, maybe a trade. And same thing with Jasanto, who also said, we're about the culture and we could make some more moves.
Jess, no notes. Big Papa. Look, I'm at a point right now where, like I said, I think that the dynamic has changed. I'm for them bringing in a wide receiver. Go with it. But if they also told me, hey, we're not in a rush, we got a lot of trade assets, and we're going to start the season what we have, see what we have. If we want to make a move, we'll make a move then. Perfectly fine with that, too.
Yeah. That concludes comment mailbag number 1, which was the immediate reaction to the Jahan Dotson trade. And thank you guys so much for those comments. We got a preseason game coming up. It's the last one of our preseason. It is happening Sunday, August 25th, 8 p.m. on NBC, nationally televised. Drake May will be playing. Jacoby Brissett will be playing against our Commanders defense for the New England Patriots. Will our guys play? Excuse me. We will see. We don't know yet. I've been checking Twitter up here on this other monitor to see if Dan Quinn has said anything yet. He said he would say something pretty soon. Yet to hear it. So we'll see what ends up happening. I believe we'll find out later this afternoon. But for the time being, we don't know the status of our 1s. But what we do know is that there are going to be 2s, 3s, etc. playing for final roster spots. K-Dot, for you, are there any particular players or position battles that you're interested in?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. But what I'm more interested in is preseason finale, finally. Because 16 days!
16 days until NFL kick. God, we're that close, huh? That feels good.
Look at this shit.
That feels good. Yeah, no, now you guys, this is behind the curtain right now. Oh my God, we're just trying to get there, man. Like, it's been a crazy offseason. It's been fun, but like, let's get going here.
Play.
Go ahead.
I'm ready to get some fucking wingos and some beer and just fucking veg out, watch some goddamn Sunday football. But okay, back to what matters.
Back to what matters.
Preseason game. Yeah, of course, there are going to be certain. I'm mostly looking at certain position groups, right? So, like, if I'm looking at players themselves, there are certain dudes that I think are like on that cusp sort of thing. So, like your Fedarian Mathis's, does he make a 53-man roster? Is he trade bait for some? Like, you say that, I'm telling you, have you looked?
He's had a good preseason.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying that, like, we're starting to look at certain positions in which they do have depth, which, like, I love the idea of having depth at certain positions, especially like a defensive line, which is a strength of ours, right? But you get in these spots where you're like, all right, there's some dudes, so like it's safety. It's starting to get dicey. How many fucking safeties do you want to have on this team compared to how many wide receivers do you want to fucking have?
And I'll say this, so K-Dot, because it's, it is preseason, we're waiting. Just rewatching random clips, highlights, etc. in some pieces of the game. I will throw a fit if Tyler Owens does not make the 53.
You see what I'm saying?
He stands out immediately, undrafted free agent. I will be pissed if he does not make the 53.
And he's out of fucking nowhere. So when you already had, so what does that mean for Reeves? What does that mean for Force? What does that mean for some of the like, are you going to go in the season with 6 or 7 fucking safeties? Like, is that going to be doable? Like, I don't know. So like, I'm looking for like some of these dudes that are on a bubble or some of the dudes that we might have known or thought were safe, but they might not quite be. So I'm looking at like, what does safety look like? That's a position that I think there are a lot of fucking bodies in there and they're going to be some tough decisions potentially. Wide receiver, of course. We're looking at the back end of wide receiver. I think there are absolute locks at wide receiver position, right? We've talked about him. Terry, lock. Dyami at this point, lock. Oz, I think at this point, lock. Jamison Crowder, I don't understand why he wouldn't be a lock.
Right.
Luke McCaffrey, lock.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep. Those are 5 locks, or as close to lock. Yeah.
Close to lock as possible. We're talking about 6 or potentially 7, depending on who it is we're talking about. Who makes
like
that
Kaz
cut?
Allen?
I like Kaz Allen, but he doesn't clearly have the size of Martavis Bryant.
Trying him at running back. They're trying to. We got the Debo quote.
She has it all over, right? So, like, is Bryant cool being a practice team guy? He was a practice team guy for Dallas. I don't think there's a lot of people calling for him, so maybe that's a spot you can slot him in. I don't know, but it's like we're looking for these moments of some of these dudes, and I think especially what we all need to be looking for are those 2 things, the body language and the moments especially. Look, I didn't know how dead on I was about the body language to a point that I don't even think I held myself accountable to looking at it as much as I needed to. But I'm sure they're fucking looking at it, right? As we saw with Jahan being bye. Like, we need to look at that shit. So, yeah, there's that. There's also from an offensive lineman standpoint, Ricky Stromberg has not had any sort of standout moments necessarily. He was hurt last year, fairly high draft pick. What are you going to do with him? Like, this is about the bubble guys. Who is it that's going to make it in and make it out? Are there anybody that's really at risk of this? This is the last opportunity, the last moment to potentially be here with us. This is going to be crucial. I think we're going to be in a land of fucking confusion come Sunday night when we're trying to do the 53-man roster.
Speaking, looking at John Keim's Twitter account right now, again, looking to see if we can get some insight on whether the ones are playing. What I do get instead is that Jaden Daniels just threw a behind the back pass in 11s to Austin Eckler. So I guess he's having some fun.
Are you shitting me?
No, I'm serious. I mean, it says half speed full team session, but he's doing whatever the fuck he wants. Like, it's pretty cool.
You know what? I think
Then, as of this moment, they're on double secret probation.
you better not do that shit in game, homie. Like, I want to see.
I don't know. I think he saw Mahomes do it and was like, fuck it. VR, throw it in there. and just, here we are.
Well, we know he's back.
It's time to buzz the tower. Damn, son of a bitch.
I just calm it down, brother. Like, even when Mahomes does it, I'm going to like, stop. Like, just
They literally, by the way, Kansas City did that just, as you can tell, we're very fired up for the preseason finale here. They did that just so that it's on film and people are going to have to guard it.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they're actually doing it in the regular season, unless it's against the Raiders, who did the Kermit Mahomes thing. He might do it against them.
Which, actually, I mean, the conversation really around the preseason finale, other than the bubble thing, we all know that we have the position. I'm sure you're going to get to what players you're looking at. But
yeah,
I think the main conversation is, do we want to see Jaden play in this final preseason game?
I think so. For me, I think it's cool that he plays one drive. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't need to play more than that, in my opinion. But I think having him trot out in front of the home fans, right? So he's going to get the opportunity to play at home, may as well, before it's week 2. And now he's playing in front of the home fans for the very first time. It's different between practice and the lights. So I would like him to play. I'm not asking for a half. I'm saying, hey, just play the one drive, maybe 2 if you want to, kind of similar to the Miami game. A lot of quick stuff. Show it again. Let the national media say this is all you're going to do. I don't think it's going to be, but get out there, make some passes, let the home crowd be happy. You saw how nice it was for Caleb Williams to be able to do that and just see, Soldier Field get just fired up around him. They do the same thing for Jaden and then trot him off, and then let's get to the position battles. That's how I feel about it, K-Dot.
I'm with you. Like, I don't come down hard either way as far as vets or anyone really playing in preseason compared to not playing. I think if you're a veteran, you get to choose. I firmly believe that, especially quarterback. I think you get to choose whether or not you're playing or not. I think Mahomes wants to. I think Rodgers does not want to. And I don't fault either one of them for that decision making. With Jaden, I wouldn't mind, like you said, being in a nationally televised game under the lights at night, prime time. That's just a nice little thing to be able to say, okay, he's experienced that. Like, that's maybe worth the experience of just saying he go out there for a series and just feel what it feels like.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so I don't have any particular names outside of like the people I already like. So like I talked about Tyler Owens, for example, I've been borderline obsessed with this secondary group just because of how badly we were burned last season in the secondary. So like, who's going to make a play? Is it going to be St. Just? Is it going to be Emmanuel Forbes? Is it going to be Michael Davis? Is it going to be Noah Igbenogany? Is it going to be Tariq Castro-Fields? Is it going to be Percy Butler? Like, that's what I'm interested in seeing. Who in the secondary makes a play, right? Because that is what we are going to need. And I want to be able to see how Joe Witt, Jason Simmons, etc., are progressing these guys in terms of what they're learning. Joe Witt Jr. took to the podium and started talking about Forbes, St. Just, and some, people had asked about them, their progression, etc. He said, look, if they're not making plays, that's me. That's me. That's me teaching them. So I already love what he's doing, standing in front and saying, this is on me. Don't criticize them. Criticize me. Like, that's leadership to me. And seeing the confidence grow for some of these guys already is great. Now we need to see it translate to the field. I think this is a big preseason game. We're playing against a quarterback we know in Jacoby Brissett. We're playing against Drake May, who a lot of the fans wanted to take. How do we look against that guy? So I'm very interested in the secondary. Is Dominique Hampton going to play more linebacker? I'm more interested to see where people are playing. Jamin Davis, is he finally going to play some linebacker, or is he on the edge again? And then all of a sudden we're talking about linebacker week 1. I don't know that I believe that anymore.
Right.
So that's the stuff I'm interested in, K-Dot.
No, I like it, man. I especially like what you're saying as far as the secondary stuff and as far as with Joe Witt. If anybody, do you listen to Julian Edelman's podcast?
I do not.
So Edelman has a fairly good podcast, especially great when he gets old Patriots on and they start telling like behind the scenes stories about Bill and all this stuff. Just a quick sidebar. Matt Light has a hell of an episode. And there's a story about an email from Bill Belichick that is an all-timer if you haven't heard it.
Okay, I would love to.
Story.
Yeah.
But he had an episode where he had Ty Law in, and Ty Law's cornerback. People remember he was great,
incredible. Yeah,
but he played under Belichick, Pete Carroll, and Bill Parcells. So he's talking about like the greats, right?
Wow.
And he talked about there was one thing that Bill Belichick used to do on defense when he was coaching, and that he would tell them like, "Hey, if the guy does this, I want you to do that." And Ty would be like, "That goes against every instinct I have as a player or anything. I don't want to do that." And Bill would look at him and say, "Hey, do what I said. It's on me. It's on me. If the play goes another way, if the dude makes a play, if you do what I asked you to do and it doesn't happen, it ain't your fault. It's on me completely." And Ty would be out there, and sometimes he'd have to think about it and be like, "All right, Bill said, hey, on this go route, I'm going to sit, or on this curl route, I'm going to sit here. It's not a curl and go." And he'd get a pick. And he'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Wow.
And he'd go over to Bill, and he'd be like, "Yo, Bill." And he's like, I told you. And if it didn't end up, he'd go over to the sideline, and Bill would be like, "Yeah, it's on me. I get it. It's on me. I'm sorry. I won't put you in a position again. Trust me the next time." But it would that's the coaching staff we have right here is what it's sounding like. The dudes will tell you to go out there. Don't fucking think about it. Don't worry. This is what we're seeing. Go do this shit. It's on me. I'm your coach. And that's, I love that shit. I love that shit.
He mentioned he has held so true. Needless to say, guys, in case you couldn't fucking tell, Joe Witt Jr. is my favorite coach on this coaching staff. I mean, he said from the jump, we want our players to play fast and not think. Right? That, what you just said about Bill Belichick, the greatest to ever do it, is what Joe is trying to instill in his guys, and you can tell. So I like that level of leadership that he's bringing to the table. I think we've seen a pretty fun defense so far, and that's without Allen, that's without Payne, that's without Wagner. Johnny Newton hasn't played yet. Like I think it's going to be very fun when we get to predictions for the season, which will be, I think, next week. Yeah, it'll be next week because then we're going straight to week 1 preview, which is exciting. So next week we'll give you our season predictions. For the Commanders, it's how I feel about the defense, honestly. If I feel like they can be average, I like this team a lot as a sleeper team in the NFL. If I think they're going to be in the 20s ranked, well, okay, we're looking at a so-so season. Hopefully Jaden's great and we move from there. But yeah, I want to see how the defense responds, and of course the wide receiver battle. That's all I'm really looking for at this point, K-Dot.
I don't fault you with anything you said. I'm with you. I don't know why there is a part of me that's like, it's probably the Jaden factor that I feel really good about the offense, even with the wide receiver questions and everything. I feel really good about the guys we have in the offense. I'm excited. Defensively, I still feel like overall this team is not shown a whole lot in preseason as far as what it is they're going to be when it comes to the regular season. And I still defensively, we haven't seen the full complement of guys going out there and doing anything. So like but if they play with the level of intensity and that they talk about, and if I'm seeing a swarming defense and all the talent that we have is out there on the field at the same time, yeah, the juices start getting flowing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the subject of Jaden Daniels, Peter Schrager came out with his top 10 breakout players. I don't know if you saw this, K-Dot. Number 1 on the list, Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels. And this is a guy that Peter Schrager takes tremendous pride in his Super Bowl predictions and his top 10 breakout player list. He's had Kyler Murray at number 1 before. He had Patrick Mahomes before his very first season starting. And he said, this guy's going to light the league on fire. His rationale for Jaden Daniels, he's like, the dude is way further ahead than anyone thinks right now. He's friends with Cliff Kingsbury too. So like, I think there's an added element there of like, I can really get to know what's going on. And I think that speaks to what Cliff thinks of Jaden. So plenty of reason for excitement, backed by one of the NFL's best on NFL Network and Peter Schrager. So
No doubt.
I'll put that out as well. Any final thoughts before we move to the comment mailbag?
Let's get this shit over with.
Let's do it. Seriously. Go ahead.
Wait, are you requesting something?
Oh, yeah. You know what I'm requesting.
Nick!
Comment mailbag time, motherfuckers. District divided, ain't got time for no suckers. Spread the word, get in line. OGs and new G's, it's your time. And spread the gospel, cause this shit is divine. Yeah.
Shout out Nikki, as always, for that. And
Thing that I forgot during the last comment mailbag, I want to start off with this real quick. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Is there a concern? I just thought about this when we were doing the pod.
Okay.
Nobody around the league has seen a lot of what the offense is doing when it comes to the preseason. How much does Jahan know about the offense that Philadelphia's now going to know?
That I don't think it's going to matter. So I did think about that in terms of like, I saw a tweet where someone was like, Jahan has the whole playbook. Like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? See, the thing is, I think if we are playing as quickly as we think and we're running as much as we think, K-Dot, if there's that balance, I don't think it necessarily matters if you know, you might get a tip or something like that. Maybe it helps a little. I don't think it helps to the point that it's going to completely dictate the outcome of those games. Just to be clear, we're also going to play them for the first time in week 11. It's one thing if we play in week 1.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? It's one thing if we play in week 1. I'd be like, okay, that's pretty fresh. Like, I'd be nervous about that.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's not a
11,
concern. It's not a concern.
I'm not concerned.
And it's not like they're picking up the phone to fucking call other teams like, hey, this is what to do. Yeah,
right. So, but good question, and I think a lot of fans have that question. I'm not concerned about it.
No, you answered it with week 11.
Yeah. We go over to Terrence Mountain, 8121. Shout out. Y'all volume is not working. So Terrence, try turning the volume up on your computer, and I think that should help because everybody else heard it. So I don't quite know what else to say on that. We go over to Coach Lombard. Shout out, Coach, with a few comments here. Some quick hits here. So I'll read through 5 of them. 6, 7. There might be 7. We'll see. Coach, let's fire through these. Agreed about Jaden Daniels attacking the middle of the field. Against 2 high defenses, he has to. That's comment number 1. Comment number 2. Receivers either need to create separation or to be physical at the catch point. Jahan does neither. No, this is before the trade. Luke, OZ, Dyami, and maybe even Crowder do. Okay, so that's comment number 2. Jahan does nothing good, apparently. Comment number 3. I do a lot of draft content, so I tend to focus on college tape. We had asked, right? You, Coach? I haven't watched the Miami tape yet. I honestly don't have any faith in your coaching staff. We have a lot of faith in our coaching staff. That's the difference. Those 7 guys are the C-tier guys that I think become B-tier guys. I think Jahan and Forbes lack confidence. I don't believe in Bobby Johnson, O-line coach, at all. Benjamin St. Juste was pretty good 2 years ago. I have no idea what happened to his game. We didn't have a very good coaching staff over here. I can tell you what happened to his game. Confidence shot. Then we agree on your players from a scouting perspective. The difference is that you have near complete faith in your coaching staff, correct? And I have near 0 faith. Fair enough. It's early, but I've been impressed with Cliff's personnel and formations through 2 preseason games. I'm open to being wrong. It doesn't happen often. We go to, I knew you'd enjoy that part. Coach again. I think Forbes is the quintessential example of our different agendas. You need Forbes to work. I love Forbes not working. Ron Rivera is one of the worst evaluators of talent in the history of the NFL. Forbes played off zone as a boundary corner. On the short side of college hashes, his tiny little body only had so much real estate to cover. Jahan, Lucas, Wiley, BSJ, and Forbes can be coached up. The question is whether it's worth it. Those guys can be schemed around, but the question is whether it's worth it. Forbes is too quick, too high on his back pedal. He jumps on all the short shit. We even talked about that when we drafted him, K-Dot. He's jumpy. That's how he gets his pick sixes. His skill set is high pointing the ball, and he can't do that with his ass backpedaling. That and tiny Devontae Smith mossed his ass. You have to put Jahan in motion on every play, including orbit motion to keep him clean. Cliff has been low motion guy historically. You can live in 6, 7, and 8-man protection to protect Lucas and Wiley. Cliff loves 2 tight end sets. 3 tight ends? BSJ and Forbes need to be in off zone all the time. Quinn has a background in the Seattle 3 defense, but is that all you can run in 2024? You could also run a version of cover 5, which is 2-man under, but should you have to? I was a high school O-line and defensive line coach. You have to ask Coach Breeze about the wide receivers, his specialty, and the DBs, but that shit feels like effort. That shit feels like high school shit. So we'll stop there for a moment. K-Dot, your reaction to those comments.
I think, Coach, you summed it up perfectly. Our agendas are different. So here's what I'm going to do. I don't give a fuck about your X's and O's until the season starts and we're playing some meaningful shit, which will make you either my favorite person or my least favorite person. You'll be my favorite person because you'll be wallowing in how fucking wrong you are as an Eagles fan, and then we'll just be dominating all over the fucking field. Or you'll be my least favorite person. You'll be right about most of this shit, and then we'll have the tape, and the proof is in the pudding, and then I'm going to be very annoyed every time the comment mailbag comes around and you're breaking that tape.
And then we'll honestly have you on before the draft and be like, who do you like? Like, you clearly are nailing it.
But that's the thing, is that regardless of the way it ends up, the world turns the way it's supposed to, and the world, the balance is there, the yin and the yang. You're an Eagles fan. I'm a Commanders fan.
True. That's a good point.
It's just the way it is.
We will split up some of Coach Lombard's comments. New G over there. Appreciate the comments there. With Muhammad over here. Shout out. It's like Muhammad Iqbal and then like a bunch of letters. Shout out. And it's like alphanumeric, like OX4BQ, whatever. Yeah. Shout out Muhammad Iqbal with 2 comments.
Elon
here.
Musk kid.
Great job on explaining. We got some celebs on here. Great job on explaining. Tony Peters and now Elon Musk. Great job on explaining how this is a dev year, a development year. So I was one, appreciate the shout out there. And didn't think I would be this excited for the season because last season was gross. But the combo of Cliff and Jaden Daniels has me fired up. And why wouldn't it, right? Based on what we've seen so far in the preseason, and it has been fairly vanilla. Remember that Cliff actually called a screen that Jaden Daniels checked out of. So the one deep ball that Jaden threw is because he checked into it. Outside of that, it's been nothing but short stuff. But it also speaks to how little we want to show, right? Like, we're not calling screens 50 times a game. We are going to let Jaden be Jaden. So I am very fired up for it. K-Dot, go ahead. Floor is yours.
To be fired up about this season is to be right. Look, there's...
So well said. It's just the delivery was excellent. Go ahead.
I don't think we can stress enough. Yacht bitch is gone. He's gone. The transitional group from Yacht bitch to whatever else is gone. We have a clean slate. This might end fucking terribly. It might be horrifically bad. But you know what? We still have a better chance now than we have ever had in the last 20-something fucking years. And that's all that matters to me. I appreciate the ability to, you know what I get to be? A regular old fucking football fan going into this goddamn season. My team will either suck, it'll be mediocre, or it'll be good. Like every other NFL team. I just...
K-Dot, just to put it in perspective, I just quickly went through my head. This is the most excited I've been for an NFL season since I was a kid, honestly. Like, even when we got RG3, I wasn't this excited as I am now. Like, RG3 was exciting, of course, but the amount we gave up, the burn of Dan Snyder was already there in 2011, 2012. So, like, the vibes weren't good. The vibes are unbelievable right now. This is as perfect a time to get back into fandom if you're not already there, to become a fan for the first time, or to now celebrate and go, we finally have a path forward. Look at the other 3 teams in the NFC East. The Cowboys aren't signing anybody for whatever reason. Everyone's on a 1-year deal. There's drama there. And Jerry's saying they're all in at the same time. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, do they hate each other? We don't know. According to one of the anonymous sources, he doesn't think it's hatred. That is a direct quote. Okay. And then you got the New York Giants, who, if you heard Sauce Gardner, or rather didn't hear Sauce Gardner talk about Daniel Jones, that was some of the most deafening silence, arguably as deafening as Adam Peters when asked about this roster 3 months ago. So,
I like Daniel Jones.
Well, we know where you're at with Daniel Jones. It's a good thing. Hey, you've been nailing this Commanders offseason minus the whole Jaden JJ thing. And thank God for that. Right. Oh, okay. Knock on wood, man. Just be safe, Jaden. this is as exciting a time to be a fan of this team. And we're just 16 days away.
Yes.
16 days away from a brand new.
Allow yourselves to understand we are free to be real football fans now. It's no longer, even if we had success, it was just a countdown to when it's going to be dog shit or when Dan Snyder's going to stick his finger into something bad. Look, the most excited I've ever been. This has now become the most excited I've been going into a season. It is now finally surpassed Gibbs 2.0. And the only thing with Gibbs 2.0 is that the moment that ended, you saw in the immediate aftermath, Dan Snyder was fucking it up. So like it's who he chose is like who the coach was gonna be, and this, that, and the other. Would you see? Oh boy, it's all going to shit.
I do have news. So Jaden Daniels will not play Sunday.
Good with it.
Okay. So, and I'm fine with that. I would have preferred that he play 1 or 2 drives, but I'm totally fine with this choice. So
I
not see Jaden Daniels until week 1 at Tampa Bay.
I know what we won't see. It's not to say he won't play. I'm not sure, but his hair is gone, which made me sad.
Shout out Sam Hartman and the hair he once had.
Very sad.
Will be missed.
I still love you.
We go over to, and shout out Mohammed Iqbal for those 2 comments. We go over to HBE. Oh, sorry.
HBK?
No, it's not Heartbreak Kid. I was like, dude, Sean, everyone's here. HB Kelly as well. Call. Shout out. Jamin Davis will take him at least all season to master playing off the edge. Shoot. Chase and Montez took them more than a year. They played to end their whole life. So that is the comment over there. K-Dot, you had a face. Go ahead.
I'd expect to probably take more than 1 season for him to master it. I don't need him to master shit. I need to be a serviceable rep and a guy that can come in and spot in and just make a play here and there. I'm not looking for him to master shit. I want to be a contributing member of the fucking defense.
Yeah. We go over to Cody Rinn. Shout out. The fact that Jaden in all 3 of his drives led to scoring opportunities that the fucking kicker would make. It speaks a lot. What more could we ask for from a rookie? I wonder if this is going to be like 2012 when we shocked the fuck out of the Saints by bringing the pistol RPO to the NFL and throwing 40 points on their head. I'm excited to see what Cliff's offense really looks like. And that's from Cody Rind over there. Just to echo what we said before, we're both very excited. We'll see what happens now. Week 1 against Tampa Bay, we once again are done seeing Jaden Daniels in the preseason. Next time we'll see him Sunday, September 8th, 4:25 p.m. Can't wait for that. 16 days away. Big Papa Grizzly with a couple. Shout out. Start with the first one, which ended up being a bit indicative. There is no wide receiver 2 on this team. Again, this is before the trade. That's not saying that we have garbage receivers. I believe that it's Terry as a clear-cut wide receiver 1, and then a very talented room of skill players behind him, all of whom could fill the time of wide receiver 2 at any point. So perhaps a rotation at wide receiver 2, which I think Dan Quinn and Cliff have even talked about. I think this is actually the future of the wide receiver room in the NFL. Okay, we're ahead of the game. Big Papa. How about it? 1 superstar and a solid base of role players. You see it in San Francisco right now. C-Mac is their best, and all of the other guys, Pro Bowlers in their own right, fill the needs required when required. So that is one comment. To the other from Big Papa Grizzly. I'll let you get to both, K-Dot. All these commentators out here ragging on Coach Quinn for naming JD5 the starter, calling it the worst kept secret in football. Gives off the same energy as the kid that gets upset when the teacher wants to see your work. What if JD5 wasn't as polished as he is? What if the O-line was so atrocious that you can't put Jaden out there in good conscience? That's what you and I were afraid of, K-Dot. Let coach. Those are the 2 comments from Big Papa Grizzly. K-Dot, your reaction.
Coaching stuff, no notes. So I was a little lost, but no notes. If you're going to use a representative of they have a clear-cut number 1 and the rest of the guys are role players, I would not use San Francisco as your example.
Yeah, because they're pretty fucking loaded.
Like,
I would almost say Kansas City in terms of like, Rashee Rice sort of became their wide receiver.
You're saying Travis Kelce.
Okay, okay, fine. So Travis, but then if you look at the target distribution, sometimes it was MVS, sometimes it was McCole Hardman when he got back, sometimes it was Rashee Rice. That's more it.
Depending on quarterback, I always go back to this. Tom Brady played with Randy Moss. They never won a Super Bowl together. When he did win Super Bowl,
that's a tough example.
I get it.
18-0, and then
Yeah, but they didn't win.
They
didn't win. I'm just keeping what it is. They didn't win. They had the most prolific offense of all time at some points, but they didn't win. So the idea would be there is an element of kind of next guy up or what it is you're doing as far as scheming this, that, and the other. Like, I look at the Rams is somebody that's like, what the fuck are they doing? Even that new kid, Jordan Whittington, they got on that motherfucking team. White boy with like free-flowing hair. I think at least he's white, at least really light skinned. It's like, the fuck y'all doing? Cooper Kupp out of fucking nowhere, Puka Nacua out of fucking nowhere, and then you got another dude out of fucking nowhere. I don't know what the fuck it is they're doing, just scheming the motherfucker. McVay is a monster.
How about Green Bay? Can you name their wide receiver one from last year?
Romeo Doubs or Christian?
Maybe. Could it be Jaden Reed? Could it be Dontavion Wicks? Could it be Christian Watson? Could it be Luke Musgrave had some catches? Like, they had a bunch of guys.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, like, there is an element of, and I also think the wide receiver position, just because from a monetary standpoint, is about to become much more like the running back position.
Yeah, I don't know how it hasn't already, honestly.
There's just too much talent coming out of the draft at any fucking given year. I don't know why you would spend so much if you can get some other guys to come in. I know that that's a terrible example to use, knowing Washington's recent history as far as wide receivers overall outside of Terry McLaurin. But I think if you got a better coaching staff and a better quarterback, it becomes a much easier thing to slide in and slide out and have success.
Correct. We will see what ends up happening this season. I will say this. Look, we're excited about the new regime. I'll speak for myself, K-Dot, because you may disagree here.
I disagree.
Cool. That honestly makes sense. I kind of disagree with you too. And I haven't even said it yet. So if these wide receivers, sans Jahan now, and sans Terry, of course, Terry's proven in the league. Everyone respects him. He's wide receiver one, clear cut. I think he could have a breakout year. Long overdue for the guy. He's played with so many fucking quarterbacks. If these other guys cannot create separation, I think you have every right to get after the coaching staff and the general manager. Because then all of a sudden you are now putting Jaden in situations where he has to run because someone's not open, if they double Terry, for example, or he has to hold on to it. And all of a sudden that pressure to sack ratio that people were talking about becomes realized, and you maybe have damaged goods. Then, in my opinion, you have every right to criticize. These guys are not above criticism. They just have the benefit of the doubt right now, and I'm excited for what I'm seeing in terms of identity. I just want to point that out, that like you would have a case if Dyami, Ozzy, Luke, etc., do not create a lick of separation consistently throughout the season.
I'll go further. I agree with you. I don't think you went far enough.
Oh my
Based
God.
on what it is that you talked about, with even when we just had the conversation a few minutes ago about Joe Witt and Bill Belichick thing, the coaches are doing a good job for me, letting me know that regardless of the way the season shakes out, it's on them. There's enough salary cap space. There was enough free agent moves that weren't made. There was enough this, that, and the other. I have certain expectations, so I'm probably not going to be as harsh as most people are on the coaching staff. But I will say, anything that happens over the course of the season is on them.
There you go. Okay, cool. We're in agreement. We're in agreement there. We go over to Coach Lombard with a couple others. Looks like we're getting close to a hard stop. May not have time for after the pod. We'll see. Coach Lombard, 2 comments. The implication in Washington is that if a guy doesn't live up to his draft profile, but offers other value, that he should not make the 53. I think that's a mistake. Cole Turner is not a receiver and has no vertical burst. He's a very good blocker, though. I'm still thinking about that too, K-Dot. Is it Maisie Smith? I'm sorry. I should know this name, but it's ringing a bell. But anyway, this player, Maisie Smith, was my nose tackle 1 on my draft board. He was supposed to be a run stuffer. He lost a ton of weight last season. If Smith stays at 280-310 and becomes an elite interior pass rusher, damn sure he's making the 53. If AP is a 3 tight end guy, fine. If he wants 4 and is addicted to draft profiles, that's a mistake. That's one comment. The other, it's not just anti-Washington bias. I am very black and white, and I'm very judgmental. I'm hard on everyone. I mentioned Witt Jr. needing to run a ton of cover 3 and inverted cover 5 on Friday. Something else I'd watch out for is banjo coverage. Mikey covers anything in breaking, and BSJ or Forbes covers anything out breaking. Those are the 2 comments, Kata.
Maisie Smith, what, the nose tackle for Dallas?
That's what I was thinking. That's what came to mind for me.
He hit the shit out of Sam Howell, if I'm not mistaken.
Pulling him up.
What was the first part of that comment?
Yeah, of the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, because I got a bit tripped up too. The implication in Washington is that if a guy does not live up to his draft profile, but offers other value that he should not make the 53, which I just fundamentally disagreed with based on the way that I heard it.
I don't know why that's
so. Okay. So for example, Emmanuel Forbes, right?
Mhm.
Draft profile, ball hawk, pick six, that's what he does.
Right.
But if he offers other value, then he shouldn't make the 53 if he's not able to produce the picks. Like, I'm not fully sure I understand
I don't get it. It's
yeah,
like
so
when
anyway,
we're-
but I made sure to look at it twice. That is exactly what it says.
yeah. I'm not entirely sure what that is or what you're reading into with that. The vibe that I got is they're looking for guys, regardless of draft profile or anything, that fit what it is the identity of play like a commander is supposed to be, and that's it. If that's what it takes to have the other value, and look, we still haven't even seen the pure 53-man roster, so I don't even know that. Yeah, I don't agree with that statement. I don't get it. Outside of that, yeah, as far as the value and talent and all that, once again, Coach Lombard, you either be right or you be wrong. And the only way we'll know that is when the season when they start playing in the fucking season. So as of now, I'm not going to be too critical of you, other than think that you are being a Philadelphian and a little too negative.
I drank water because we conclude the comment mailbag with
Jess
Santo. Shout
out, Coach. We know what you did. You basically have the same length of the Jess Santo thing, but you break it up thinking we ain't gonna fucking notice. We notice.
Most certainly do. This one's actually going to be shorter than the combined Coach Lombard comments. No sweat, Broseph. Didn't comment on the post-game show. This was in reference to me saying I didn't see Jess Santos' comment on the last one. After clicking, I haven't responded. We did not miss one. Thank goodness. I've been trying to keep the comments shorter. I got to let this one rip, though. Sippy time. Enough is enough. We as a fan base need to get off Forbes and Dotson's asses. Well, okay, we can stay on Dotson's now, as it turns out. Trust the process. If Dotson wasn't injured his rookie season, he would have blown away his draft mates in touchdowns that season. It's true. He's now learning his third offense in his third year. Fourth offense in his third year? People forget our secondary was fine until Harris left. Chris Harris, DB's coach. And now we are absolutely stacked at safety. Forbes and Howell were thrown into the fire last season with no clear developmental plan or assurances. They literally have the hardest two jobs in the game. Jaden Daniels, quarterback one, a.k.a. McDaniels, over 99 billion served. I've been analyzing the shit out of this dude since the pre-draft. I think he's going to be something special. K-Dot, potentially Peyton Manning with wheels. Fingers crossed. He's not a football nerd. He's a football addict. He eats, sleeps, and breathes it. He loves every aspect about it, from the training, the film room, practice, the coaching, the team camaraderie, the games, competition, and the fans. He researched the team while they were researching him. Him and his mother both knew the Left Hand Up song and other Washington football sayings draft night. He screamed and jumped into the crowd with the Washington fans in Detroit. He honors tradition and legacy it has brought and has bought into this franchise. He is more intense than he lets on and is striving to be great. At some point in time, he realized that if he was going to reach the next level, he was going to have to put in even more extracurricular work on top of his physical talents. Hence the early morning workouts, the VR simulators, and after practice workouts. He may appear calm, cool, and collected, but behind the scenes, he is calculating, methodical, and relentless. He will make sure that he is fully prepared before he will take a minute to relax. I guarantee he has the schedule memorized. He already mentioned, this is something I wanted to bring up last episode, actually, Kate, I shared this with you. He already mentioned that the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, was from the Baltimore tree, and that will get some of the same looks from them later in the year. He can check plays, call protections, and read defenses, which is far beyond the norm for a rookie. Besides an agent crying about Topgolf and his buddy dragging him into contract negotiations, there are no red flags about him. He's 23. He'll gain weight. We all do. With his determination and work ethic, he could become the prototype of what the perfect balance between a traditional pocket passer and a mobile quarterback looks like. With the supporting coaching staff in place, the sky's the limit for him. We have all watched massive quarterbacks come and go here, and this one is different. Share this shit. Jess, Anto, thank you so much. This is more or less how I feel about the kid. I've been trying to stay muted. I've been trying to stay relaxed. Like, we'll see. I fucking love Jaden Daniels. I do think he's going to change stuff. Fingers crossed. That would be awesome. Go ahead, K-Dot.
JJ McCarthy. No, I'm
After all that. After all
look,
that.
man, I'll freely admit the thing that's making me the happy. Look, in the pre-draft shit, Jaden Daniels had a lot of shit that I did like that I didn't necessarily. I liked a lot of things about him. If you recall, the first mention of Jaden Daniels on this podcast was me last year when I said that there was a chance I thought Jaden Daniels could get picked above Caleb Williams.
I was getting my coffee. I remember this. Yeah, because I ended up watching that and I was like, and I love him too, but you technically were the first to mention
was the first person to mention him. I was the first one to mention the name because I was high on Jaden. That being said, I still had my concerns going in the pre-draft thing. I still have one concern above all other concerns, which is the pressure to sack ratio. I still need to be proven wrong about that. That's it. But we're getting to know him from a personality standpoint. Any of my issues, or I'm not going to say issues and concerns, but any of the things that I might have liked somebody else more than him on that have kind of gone away. I think the first thing was looking at the simulation stuff. The episode that we did where I did the deep dive on the simulation company, the VR company, that changed a lot of things for me. The preparation that he takes in doing that to me was like, okay, that's fucking nuts. Then just going through preparing for this podcast every week, all these images that you see of the players on the thumbnail or down at the bottom I have to go through a ton of training camp and a ton of fucking game photos. And also watching the games themselves. That smile that he has on his face, the fun that he's clearly having. That's just a dude that loves the fucking game. And like that to me is the single most important thing.
Yeah.
And if you can do that and you can maintain that, everybody else will fucking follow you, man. Like it's dope. Yeah, I'm all in.
All in. It's based on everything that's happened this offseason, near impossible not to be. You almost have to do it on purpose, not being all in with this kid based on what the beat reporters are saying, how different he's looked relative to other guys, the maturity. Yes, he's 23, but yes, the maturity with it. Yeah. He's been great so far. When you mentioned Jaden Daniels, he could rise. I come back from coffee. The thing that I really loved about Jaden and why he's different from RG3 people, because I think you see him run and you're like, oh, okay, it's RG3. This guy is pass first. Let's start there. He's pass first. He goes through reads. When RG3 was here, it was simplified to be one read, a little read option so that the linebackers come and throw it over the middle. We could still do that, but Jaden can do a whole lot more. RG3 has said so himself based on watching videos and film of Jaden Daniels. His ball placement, first thing I noticed, like this guy can put it wherever he wants to. He's continuing to prove it. Can't help but be excited. That was the comment mailbag. This is District Divided, DC Sports Podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys for listening to not one, but two comment mailbags, as well as a quick preseason preview against the New England Patriots Sunday night. We're the last preseason game of the NFL season. And then we roll into week one. Can't wait for that. We will be dropping an episode on the final 53. We will give a prediction as well as a recap of the preseason game. We wanted to get that to you Monday morning, ideally. I'm Amit. That is K-Dot. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and K-Dot.
As the great poet ChatGPT says, share this shit.
Share this shit. We greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. We will see you Monday with the predictions there.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.